I want to
Okay.
welcome everybody today. The session will be recorded, so just so you're aware of it, and we'll be posting it throughout our social media, our website, and so on. Welcome to the Roundtable Forum. It's a program that we do every other month, and we focus on different areas that we feel is going to be beneficial to our membership. This one's more of a non-traditional one. It's called Building Your Business Across Borders, and we're focusing on business in Mexico. It's something that the Southwest Valley Chamber hasn't done in the past, and we're trying to expand our reach and develop some different alternatives and ideas for our businesses in the area. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome our speakers today. We'll get a formal introduction to them, but we have Consul General Yescas here today. We have Juan Garcia, and we have Ruben Alvarez as our panel. And then let me start by introducing our facilitator today. We have Roy Nelson, an associate professor at Thunderbird School of Global Management, as well as an associate dean of Thunderbird's undergraduate program, which I understand is fairly new. Roy has also published numerous peer-reviewed journal articles in the top academic journals, as well as Latin American studies in Thunderbird, and a number of series that are staples in the business community across the country. So let's welcome Roy Nelson as our facilitator today, who will be introducing our speakers. Welcome, Roy.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Jeff. It's a great pleasure to be here today. And I hope everyone is aware of Thunderbird School of Global Management. It became very well known as a graduate school of global management based in Glendale. But in 2015, we became part of ASU. And so now Thunderbird, which has been known long time as one of the very best schools for international business in the world, as its graduate program, is now also offering an undergraduate program. And so that's based at ASU's. Our graduate program has moved to downtown Phoenix. It's now housed in a brand new building in downtown Phoenix, right next to the law school, if you know where that is. But the undergraduate program is based at ASU's West Campus. And so that's the picture you have behind me of ASU's West Campus. And we have about 250 undergraduates. We started in 2015 with nobody, but now we've grown it to 250. We plan to get to about 1,000 undergraduates within the next few years. And so this is a very exciting program I wanted people to be aware of right here at ASU's West Campus. So, but we're really excited about this forum today. This is quite a very distinguished panel, and I will be facilitating the forum. And after all the speakers complete their presentations, we will have a Q&A with the speakers as time allows. I would like to start the forum today with our first speaker, Consul General Yescas. And Jorge Mendoza Yescas is a member of the Mexican Foreign Service. He was appointed by the President of Mexico as Consul General of Mexico in Phoenix, Arizona. And prior to his appointment as Consul General in Phoenix, Consul Mendoza served as Consul for Legal Affairs and Documentation at the Consulate General of Mexico in Vancouver, British Columbia. Consul General Yescas.
Yes. Thank you, Roy. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to be here to talk about the opportunities and to build or expand business across the border. First of all, I want to thank Jeffrey Campos for the invitation and to be part of this panel. We are very excited actually for this collaboration with the Southwest Valley Chamber of Commerce. And it's a pleasure also to share the panel with Roy Nelson, Associate Dean at Thunderbird School of Global Management. And it's a great institution actually on which we are partnering in our program for entrepreneurship for Mexican women. Also in alliance with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And also, I'm very happy to be here with my very good friend, Ruben Alvarez. ¿Cómo estás, Ruben? And lastly, it's a pleasure also meeting you, Juan Garcia from Red Eagle Global Resources. What I want to say is and talk a little bit about the opportunities that the USMCA is giving us. It's a new agreement that has been in force for just a very short period of time, but it represents an opportunity for the three member countries in order to restructure their supply chains in response to the risk highlighted by the recent pandemic-driven economic crisis. Mexico provides creative economic and political policies to attract U.S. companies that are trying to relocate their supply chains outside China. And according to a study conducted by PwC, U.S. manufacturers could cut operating costs an average of 23% if they shipped production from China to Mexico. That is, again, 23% of operating costs. There are four frequently used models for companies that want to manufacture in Mexico: wholly owned subsidiary, contract manufacturing, a shelter program, and joint venture. The first one, a wholly owned subsidiary, is an independent entity in Mexico that allows the business to control everything from the hiring process to operations. The second one is the contract manufacturing model. It's a company, when a company opts to manufacture in Mexico without starting a new business and decides that it will outsource production to other party contract manufacturing company. The third one, it's the shelter program. It works like as a foreign company that lacks the knowledge needed to start and operate a plant in Mexico and looks for a shelter that has the necessary knowledge to operate a plant in a direct way in Mexico. And the fourth one is the joint venture model. It's a foreign company, when a foreign company partners with a Mexican manufacturer to expand its network and improve both its market value and its competitive advantage. And lastly, what I want to say you is that just feel free to contact the Council of Mexico in Phoenix if you want to expand the business, any business in Mexico. We will be more than happy to assist you in that process. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Consul General. Our next speaker is Ruben Alvarez with Malura Alvarez, and he has extensive political experience and strategic business expertise in leading a wide range of Fortune 500 companies, nonprofit groups, and government entities in pursuit of their business development and legislative goals. Mr. Alvarez?
Thank you, Roy. Jeffrey, thank you for the opportunity to participate in the panel. Consul, great seeing you, and Juan, pleasure meeting you. I've got some informational slides that I'm going to go ahead and go through. If Joanna can go ahead and put those on, we can start the presentation. Great. So we can just go to the next slide. What I'm going to talk about a little bit is, the benefits of exporting, what the Arizona market currently is in terms of exports, some challenges and benefits of doing business in Mexico, and then open it up for some questions and answers after everyone has an opportunity to speak. So what would benefit a company from exporting? Well, you gain access to more consumers and businesses. Our proximity to Mexico will provide increased sales potential. And it also allows you to diversify your opportunities because even if the local domestic economy begins to falter, you may still have other markets for your goods and services. So there's risk mitigation there for companies that do enter and expand their sales opportunities in Mexico. Next slide, please. So these are some export numbers. In 2019, Arizona exported a little bit over 8 billion to Mexico, 33% of its global exports. Overall, Arizona exported over 24 billion in goods around the world. Mexico is Arizona's largest trading partner. Our two-way trade was 16 billion in 2020. And this included 7 billion in exports and 9 billion in imports. 1 in 5 Arizona jobs actually depends on international trade. And Arizona's trade-related employment grew 3 times faster than the total employment before NAFTA. Next slide, please. These are Arizona's top 5 exports. Arizona has, in terms of the export categories, you can see metal ores, electronic components, equipment, and plastics are the top export categories. Some of the most promising sectors for U.S. exporters include agribusiness, auto parts, aerospace, education services, and environmental technology. Next slide, please. So why Mexico? Apart from the fact that our proximity allows us more opportunities, Mexico is the 15th largest economy in the world. And given Mexico's large diversified market, most U.S. products and services have ample opportunities. And I want to also point out that it's a young population with a median age of about 28 years old. And Mexico, as the Consul General had mentioned, has generally enjoyed stable economic growth in the 90s, even though it did falter a bit, given the pandemic last year. But again, Arizona's close cultural, social, and economic ties with Mexico and allows for great opportunities. Next slide, please. Market challenges. Again, the COVID pandemic made in-market visits and business development opportunities a bit challenging. There's been travel restrictions from business individuals wanting to travel to the U.S. from Mexico. And hopefully, I know that there are agencies and organizations that are working with the federal government to allow for more increased travel and put in place regulations and so forth that would make it a lot easier. The López Obrador administration also has a focus on domestic social policy and protection policies, which makes it a little bit harder, but they've been willing to work with American companies to allow for a two-way trade. And one of the other challenges that most people have top of mind is the area of violence. But again, the federal government in Mexico, and in particular the state governments in Mexico, are trying to focus on combating violence. So next. So these are the various stages of export development. I'm not going to go into all of them, but basically, you need to build export capacity through, situation analysis. You need to develop export markets by identifying which markets you want to enter. You need to obviously make the sales pitch, understand who your partners are. And lastly, you need to understand how to deliver the goods. You need to understand U.S. regulatory compliance as well as Mexican regulatory compliance. Next slide, please. So is a company export ready? Well, senior management of any company needs to make a commitment, a strong commitment, if they are willing to enter into another market, especially international market. Your products needs to be tested and sold in the U.S. Before you enter a different market. Again, you need to have key point individuals in those markets. I can't stress enough the importance of having the right partner in Mexico or in any other country to increase your success. And you need to understand and build a strong international marketing plan as well. You need to understand what resources are available to you, have sufficient product availability, the financial resources, and understand what the expectations are in terms of investing to open up those markets. And you also need to understand the shipping and supply chain that is in place. Next slide, please. And these are some points in terms of market entry strategy. You need to focus on regional territories. Mexico is very, very vast, and it's a large market. And you need to be very specific in terms of understanding which regions in Mexico are best suited for your products and services, especially from a supply chain standpoint. Mexican buyers are generally price sensitive, so you also need to ensure that you have the effective pricing structure. And one of the things that we advise any business interested in beginning business in Mexico or in any other country is make sure you have strong legal counsel, protection of intellectual properties, and so forth. And it's very crucial to develop and maintain close relationships with your clients and partners. And in Mexico, although there's a lot of use in emails and so forth, one of the most links or ways of communicating is through WhatsApp. And then also you need to find and evaluate trade events so that you can promote your products. Next slide, please. And these are some bullet points in terms of market research. Again, you just need to determine your company's competitive advantages and evaluate the markets before entering. Understanding the costs associated with exporting and understanding the political risks associated in specific market as well. Next slide. Now, in terms of where can you find free market intelligence? Obviously, the Consul General indicated that his office is available to provide you some information. We also have the Arizona Commerce Authority here in the state of Arizona that can provide you information, as well as the U.S. Commercial Service. Next slide. And as I mentioned before, finding the right partners is key. So make sure that you do your homework, you visit, go in market, meet with different individuals, and before you develop your business strategy, understand who's available in market to assist you. Next slide, please. So this is a program that can provide you some assistance. It's the Arizona State's Trade Expansion Program. It's run by, again, the Arizona Commerce Authority, and it assists Arizona small businesses interested in exporting into Mexico. Companies receive grants for international trade shows and expos, B2B and B2G meeting events, trade missions, export tech or export education, and they help you in terms of developing your plan, and also provide you information regarding export compliance. Next slide. Trade missions are very important. That's one of the areas that my company focuses on. What we do is we help companies develop business development events in the targeted markets where we identify potential partners, government officials that would be willing to assist companies interested in entering that market, especially when it comes to investments. And we provide background information of specific markets. Next slide, please. Oh, there it is, Miller Alvarez Services. That's what the name of my company is, Miller Alvarez. And again, we assist with market analysis, exploration, and market entry. And that's about it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Ruben, for that. Now, our last speaker today is Juan A. Garcia, and Juan Garcia is considered the multinational premier entrepreneur from Texas. He developed a very robust client list in the United States and Latin America, comprised of some of the most forward-thinking enterprises that are still in operation today. And Juan has advised senior executives in numerous industries who have sought out his counsel in developing strategies for launching their brand in Mexico and in the rest of Latin America. So Juan?
Here I am.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that robust introduction. And thank you, Jeffrey, for the invitation to attend this forum. I'm going to take my particular presentation from a different point of view, from a salesman's point of view. I've done the windshield time across Mexico in salesman's terms for the past 40 years, from the time that I left university to now as an entrepreneur, and now as senior advisor to 8 former heads of state from Mexico, Central and South America. Now, how I arrived at that pinnacle of my career was basically by building relationships. And if I had any advice for anybody listening to this roundtable, it's just that. Focus on the relationships in Mexico. Every region has a different way of thinking. Every region in Mexico speaks a different dialect of Spanish. Believe it or not, it's different in Monterrey as it is in Guadalajara, as it is in Ciudad de Mexico. But I'd like to share with you a couple of case studies that are still vibrant and active in Mexico. The first one being FedEx. I'm the guy that's credited with taking the brand Federal Express, now known as FedEx, into Mexico. That was back in the 80s, the early 80s. I had hair then. I was young, I was brash, I was aggressive. And that's why I think Mr. Smith, Fred Smith, the owner of the company to this day, chose me to go down there and introduce the brand to the business community. I retired in 1997 after a 20-year career with FedEx and went on to take on other transportation brands into Mexico in the freight forwarding space. One that's really robust and still growing down there is now known as SIVA Corporation. When I took the brand down there, the guy that owns the Houston Astros to this today was a guy that recruited me to represent what was known as Eagle USA at the time in Mexico, introducing the brand. When he talked to me through one of his vice presidents by the name of Pete Swanee, they recruited me out of retirement to introduce their brand in Mexico. And having done the windshield time for FedEx, it was just in my bailiwick. So I went to work. And much to the happiness of my spouse, because she was tired of seeing me walk around the house, and she was begging me to go out back to work to get something to do. So she kicked me out of the house and I went back to work. Eagle USA grew to become Eagle Global Logistics. Now, I wanted to focus on the name because the name of your company, if you're going to follow the advice of one of the previous speakers, I think it was the Council of Mexico, who gave the 4 options for launching a brand in Mexico. The one I would recommend would be the joint venture model. Find a good partner down there. There are so many prohibitive investments that you have to make in launching your own brand into Mexico. And I would submit to you that given the tenor of the times and the security issues that are prevailing in the country, I wouldn't recommend it at this point. Find a good partner that's already operating in the country and put a contract in place to joint venture with that company. You're going to save yourself a lot of money and a lot of heartache and headaches. That's what, believe it or not, we did at FedEx. I looked for a family that was renowned in the transportation space, but not in the cargo area, in the passenger area. I went and sought out the owner of Mexicana Airlines that existed at the time. And back in those days, if you launched a brand in Mexico, it had to be 51% owned by a Mexican entity and 49% by the US or foreign entity. Well, the Ballesteros family, Don Crescencio Ballesteros, which I think he's still alive, who owned Mexicana Airlines, is the individual that we chose to be the 51% ownership partner in the joint venture. The name of the Mexican company was Aeroenvíos de Mexico. That prevailed for about 5 years. And then the board at FedEx decided we needed to take over. But we had some bumps in the road. No indictment on the Mexican system, and I'm not here to change it. I'm just here to tell you that I survived it. Back in those days in the 80s, I had to walk around through Mexican customs with a big bag of pesos, trying to get our shipments cleared and processed to be able to be delivered. That system has changed somewhat. I'm sure the consul general is probably scratching his head right now and asking himself, where did they dig this guy up? But I would be remiss if I didn't give you the reality of doing business in Mexico. You have to be very cautious. You have to be very careful, because if you're not and you choose the wrong partner, it can cost you a lot of money. If you don't know anything about the labor laws in Mexico, beware. The labor laws are brutal. In fact, the outsourcing industry in Mexico prevailed for a long time until President AMLO decided that it was time to curtail that industry, which is you would hire people through a third party. You wouldn't hire them direct to your brand, because the separation of those individuals, employees, would cost you a lot of money to get rid of them. You cannot fire people for cause. You'd have to pay them a tremendous amount of exit money to get rid of them. So that's where the outsourcing industry grew in Mexico. But like I said, President AMLO is trying to change that. Whether it's right or wrong, it's not for me to say. All I got to tell you is as a country manager for a big brand at one time, or for two brands actually at one time, that outsourcing nickel was well spent. I agree with the Consul General. You know, a good source of information and support is through the consulate offices in the United States. And Mr. Alvarez was very keen on talking about exporting, and I agree with him. Exporting is not that difficult to Mexico, not with all the resources that we have at the federal and state level. Tap into them. Thank you for your time.
So thank you, Juan, for all that information. So now I think we're going to move to the question and answer discussion. And so it's back to Jeff to conclude. Well, no, first we're going to have the Q&A. We have a little time, I think, for Q&A. Isn't that right, Jeff?
Plenty of time.
Yeah.
Please do so. You have some questions that were submitted already, Roy.
Okay. And so get those questions up here. Here they are. And so I think some interesting questions here. Maybe the panelists can talk about the biggest challenge a business would potentially encounter in Mexico.
I guess I'll just jump right in. I think one of the biggest challenges to overcome when considering entering into a different market, and in particular Mexico, is understanding the regulatory business environment. As Mr. Garcia indicated, the labor laws in Mexico are different than the US. So having a very good understanding of what the regulatory business environment is key, so that you don't get into a situation where you invest and you know it's not as successful. opportunity.
All right. What about
got-
some top? Oh, do we have another response on that one?
Yes, sir, I do. If I may, I just wanted to give, from my perspective, how I went out and created 3 very successful entities in Mexico, and my points of focus, which are only 4, which are challenges for American corporations if they don't speak the language and they don't understand the customs and mores of the country. The first thing I would do was to focus on the accounting piece of the organization. I would hire a good accountant in Mexico that was not only licensed, but certified in the different areas of accounting, cost accounting, profit accounting, etc. The second thing I would focus on would be the sales force. In transportation, which is where I draw most of my experience as an entrepreneur in Mexico, you would always go and look for those large clients that are shipping product through the modes of transportation that are within your scope of company. In other words, if it was FedEx at that time, it was air freight and air parcel. I would go to those clients that historically, like the automotive tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 suppliers that are shipping a lot of SKUs via air freight. I would go to them and interview them, not about their business, but about who they considered the most trustworthy and best salesperson in their marketplace. I would then go out and book an appointment with that individual and try to measure his interest as to jumping ship from who he's working for to come to work for me. Okay. So accounting, and then Salesforce. And then third, I'd focus on the executive suite of the company that I'm going to create in Mexico, the leadership. Again, I would interview those clients at the CEO level that were using a lot of transportation products from the multinational integrated carriers and the freight forwarders. I would ask them to recommend who they saw within their providers in transportation as good leaders, not just of the salespeople, but of the P&L, the profit and loss statement of the company. And I would interview them to see if they'd be interested in jumping ship. And lastly, I would focus on the operations piece, the worker bees. Who are the best operators in the marketplace? And I would likewise go out after them. And after I got those 4 pieces together, then I was ready to go to my bosses with a business plan for how we were going to launch the brand.
Okay, that's pretty thorough, very practical suggestions. Any other comments on this one? Okay, this other question here, I think, is something that would be relevant for everybody here. What is the current business environment in Mexico, and what things should investors consider when doing business in Mexico?
Okay, well. Okay,
Okay,
right.
Councilor
Well,
Yescas?
as I mentioned in my participation, I think the cost on average, if we compare with China, I think it's a great advantage that we can take into account. And as I said, this study made by PwC US manufacturers, the manufacturers could cut operating cost an average of 23%. So in 3, I think of the many benefits that the manufacturers will get if they operate in Mexico could be a low logistic cost, of course, greater flexibility in terms of the delivery times, and the faster response to any disruption.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone else want to comment on this, the current business environment and things investors should consider?
I've got a few thoughts on that area.
Okay.
Currently, my about 40% of my time of my 8 hour day, 8 hour, yeah, my 12-hour day is spent in the cannabis industry. As you well know, what you read in the paper, in the news, Mexico is about to approve the recreational consumption of marijuana. And cannabis, sativa, has always been a narcotic that's been prohibited by the Mexican government and is still very much prohibited by the US government at the federal level. Of course, in our country, certain states have been approved and allowed to cultivate the weed and to develop medicinal cannabis products from it. Where I became involved was when one of my business partners, one of the guys I represent, former head of state, President Vicente Fox of Mexico, called me and told me that he was going to be pushing forward, and this was 4 years ago, with being the voice of reason for the elimination of the prohibition of the consumption and recreational consumption of marijuana in Mexico and the rest of the hemisphere for that matter. Well, I was dragged to the altar screaming, fighting, and kicking, but I'm glad I didn't put up too much of a fight because I'm having fun. For the first time in a long time, I'm having a lot of fun. That question on the current business environment leads me into talking about security. I don't have any problems in Mexico, and I read about a lot of tourists, a lot of entrepreneurs that go down to Mexico and do have problems. Well, that's because you have to understand where you're going in Mexico. You cannot allow yourself to go into those areas that we all read about that are not very safe in Mexico. So you stay out of those areas. At least I do. I don't have to walk around in Mexico with a bodyguard because I know when to keep my mouth shut. I know that I can stay in my sandbox and I'll be okay. I do and conduct my business on behalf of President Fox, on behalf of my company, and then I get out of the country. I come back to the United States. I don't make a lot of noise. I'm careful, but I have to bring it up because regardless of what the current business environment, positive or negative, whatever your thinking might be, you have to keep that in the back of your mind. You have to be careful. The days of going out at night to a fiesta, to I don't know what you call it, skip the light fandango, to borrow an old phrase, those days are gone. Please be careful. The environment is such that in a moment's notice, it can switch on you because I've seen it happen. I have represented in the past a world-class security company based out of Montana. The company was made up of a lot of former Navy SEALs and Army Rangers, tough guys. We call them badasses in the military. Pardon the vernacular. But I represented them and I took them into Mexico. And those are the guys that educated me as to how deep the security risk is in Mexico. Now, I'm not saying to those people that have a goal of entering the marketplace, don't do it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying be careful. Thank you.
Did anyone want to elaborate on any aspect of this or? Okay. Well, maybe we'll turn to, this is a little bit, maybe a little lighter comment here. How do the cultural and language differences come into play for a company doing business in Mexico?
Okay, right. Well, in my opinion, we can take into maybe give some importance about the language. I think many Mexicans speak English fluently or professionally, But despite that, ID companies should be aware that they may need an interpreter who can help them navigate in with the language barrier that they may find. But Mexico's proximity to the US and the strong ties that we have between the two countries also have shaped the kind of the business culture in Mexico. There may be some significant differences, but in the dress code and the greetings and titles and all this time and that the management maybe. But in essence, I think since especially since 1994, when the NAFTA was signed and entering into force, I think the protocols are mostly the same in not just between the States and Mexico, but also in Canada, since we form a unique block of business and commerce.
Okay. Yeah, that's, I mean, would anyone want to elaborate on that? The cultural, I think all of these are very valid points that the Consul General was making.
I think it's important to know that, especially in the initial stages, you need to build rapport, and it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen by just meeting once. You have to have constant communication with potential partners, with potential associates, because it's more of a trust factor and than dollars and cents.
Building the personal relationship means a lot, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And this basically, are there any other, specifically regarding exports, are there any tips or suggestions given the current commercial conditions and business environment, specifically related to export?
I think before you enter and make an investment in terms of your efforts to build a supply chain or to build a strategy to sell your product, you really need to sit down with an entity such as the Consul General or the U.S. Commercial Service to really know what it is you're getting into from, again, a regulatory standpoint. Laws are different in Mexico than they are in the U.S., especially when it comes to labor, accounting, financial, all those regulatory aspects of conducting business need to be well understood before you make an investment.
Consul General, did you want to add to that, or?
Well, I'm just reading what Carmen Ronan, who works with Moreno Alvarez, wrote at the chat. I think Data Mexico is a very useful tool that offers information about the Mexican economy and provides an opportunity to analyze and visualize the first data. This tool has been designed by the Ministry of Economy. And I think a good advice is to take a look at the website and also make contacts, as Ruben said, before with that ministry, which they handle all the economic issues in Mexico. And yeah, I think it's a great point what Carmen is saying there. Data Mexico, it's a very, very, very useful tool.
Okay, that's good to know. Very useful. And so is there anything that we've missed that any of you think that listeners should know?
I think Jeff made a point of saying that the chamber is going to look into providing more market opportunities with Mexico. I think taking advantage of a trade mission, whether it's through the chamber or another entity, so you can understand the market a little bit better, go in person, see, get to know folks is very important. So if an opportunity does present itself where you get invited to a trade mission, I would highly encourage you.
Okay, anything else anyone wants to, any other final points anyone would like to make here?
Just one final point as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to be spending a considerable amount of time in the last quarter of this year in Phoenix based on business requirement. And Jeffrey knows all of my contact coordinates. If anybody on this podcast or this forum would like to spend some time just tapping my brain cells, I'm open to that. No charge.
Good to know. And I'm sure that applies for everyone on the panel. Is that
Yes,
true?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Juan, that was the magical phrase. We'll definitely get together free of no charge. And look forward to tapping. We're with Crescent. We run all of the Mexico LATAM requirements for commercial real estate for industrial. And we've got some clients, and I think it would be a good conversation. So Campos, let's put something together when he gets to town.
Hey, Jeffrey,
Yes.
if I may add, I'd like to, those that are on this call, I would like to send out an invitation on part of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We have a senator that's coming into town from Mexico. He is from Aguascalientes, and we have a welcoming morning meeting tomorrow morning at the BBB office building at 10 a.m. in the morning. So if you would, any of you would like to attend, I'm going to send you on my chat my email and my phone number. Those that would like to attend, I'd be more than happy to have you there. But we're trying to welcome him in. He's coming in to look at some projects that he wants to do. One of the projects that he's wanting to do in Aguascalientes, where he's from, as you all know, Aguascalientes is one of the smallest states in the Republic of Mexico. They're wanting to build an airport there. And so they're coming over here to talk to the Gateway, you know, the can't even think of the name now, mine just went blank. But anyway, they're trying to do some of that and also do some other interaction with the agricultural, fishing, all that kind of stuff that he's the Secretary of Mexico on. So I wanted to share that with everyone, since everyone's on here on the topic is Mexico. I think it'd be appropriate if any of you would like to join us, please, let me know. I'll send that in the chat right now so that you guys can let me know whether you can attend or not. Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Super.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Any closing comments from anybody that before as we close out our session today? All right, well, great. Roy, thank you so much for your facilitation today. And thank you, Ruben, Juan, Council General. Thank you for your participation. I think this was very informative. It's kind of the start of our process here in the Southwest Valley Chamber of Commerce of what we're trying to do is create opportunities for our businesses here. And we got to open those avenues of opportunities that exist and start people thinking today. And everybody on this forum here today is definitely a resource, from our education to our consultants to our Council General here. You have a lot of resources that are available to you in the state of Arizona to do business here, from the individuals on this call and also from the U.S. Commerce Department and so on. So keep that in mind, that there is resources for you, and start to think outside the box of doing business elsewhere. There's a great opportunity available. So I want to thank again all the speakers for being here. It's really appreciated. And for all the attendees, hope this was beneficial for you. And look forward to some other things we have coming. For some of you who haven't registered, we have our membership meeting September 23rd at the Phoenix Raceway. Listen to our mayors, our city managers, listen from my vision and things that we have ahead. And then our chair will also talk about what we've done in the past. So September 23rd, Phoenix Raceway. If you haven't registered, go to our website. You'll see it on there. And again, thank you all for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day. And some of you are probably hungry. Get some lunch. All right. Take care, everybody.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Great panel.
All right.
Bye-bye.